Hello everyone, this is Zohaib Tahir from Zedmeds, and today we are going to talk about autonomic nervous system again, but this is the second part in which we will see majorly the functions of autonomic nervous system. So for the anatomy of autonomic nervous system, you have to watch the last video I have uploaded. So sympathetic nervous system is usually activated in the emergency state of the body. Emergency state means fear state, or the if the some if someone is having any kind of trauma or accident, or is feeling hypoglycemic symptoms, is there any, if there is any cold or doing any exercise in that particular in those particular moments, sympathetic nervous system gets activated. So there are two situations arise from emergency. Either it could be fight mode or the flight mode. In both cases, there will be increase in the heart rate, increase in the blood pressure, decrease in the GI motility, bronchodilation will occur, people will become dilated. How will this happen? We will discuss it later on. So the blood flow to the skin is reduced, to the GIT is reduced, to the internal organ it is reduced, but to the major organs like liver and the skeletal muscles, blood flow is increased. How is it increased and how is it decreased? It depends upon the type of receptors. So as I have told you, GI motility will also decrease and there will be urinary retention. And when this state is over, means sympathetic state is over, or you can say emergency state is over, then parasympathetic will come into action, and there will be reversal of these events. Means there will be reduction in the heart rate leading to the bradycardia, reduction in the blood pressure, increase in the GI motility, increase in the urination, and the pupil dilation will be converted into pupil constriction. So the sympathetic nervous system, as we have seen in the anatomy, that it acts in the form of a unit, means there will be diffused activation. What is a diffused activation? There will be one preganglionic innervating two, three, or many more branches of the postganglionic neurons. So one stimulation or one action potential can stimulate 3 to 4 organs at a time with a single action membrane potential. The basic thing, or you can say the starting point of the sympathetic nervous system, is actually the triggering adrenal medulla, and that trigger will be through acetylcholine, not norepinephrine or epinephrine. So triggering the adrenal medulla leading to the release of epinephrine or and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is released in small amount while epinephrine is released in the larger amount. Norepinephrine is taken up in the neurons and epinephrine is taken up in the blood, as epinephrine is the hormone and norepinephrine is the neurotransmitter. Now come to the parasympathetic nervous system, in which there is normal state, or you can say the state after emergency. Now we have to settle down ourselves. So digestion will become normal by increasing the GI motility, and hence there will be energy conservation as well. So this is not a fight and flight response, rather it is rest and digest function or response, in which there should be reduction in the heart rate, means bradycardia, increase J motility to start the digestion process again, and urinary retention will be converted into urination. So pupil from dilated state it comes to the constricted state, and bronchodilation is converted into the normal state or the bronchoconstrictive state. So there will be localized action or the discrete activation, means there will be one preganglionic stimulating just one postganglionic fiber or the neuron, rather than the branches of the postganglionic fiber. And it is very essential for the survival, because a human body or the animal body cannot survive if it is consistently on the sympathetic nervous system. Now we have to compare sympathetic and parasympathetic effects. First of all, if we see the eye, Sympathetic nervous system causes dilation of pupil while parasympathetic nervous system constricts the pupil. If we look at the activity of heart, then heart contractility and heart rate is increased in the sympathetic nervous system while it is low in case of PNS or parasympathetic nervous system. Talking about bronchioles, there will be dilation in the sympathetic nervous system because of the action of adrenaline and noradrenaline on the bronchial smooth muscles. While in case of the PNS or parasympathetic nervous system, because of the action of choline or acetylcholine, there will be constriction and increased secretion of the mucus in the bronchioles. So, acetylcholine actually increases this bodily secretions, means if there is saliva, the sweat, or the secretion of mucus, it all depends upon the cholinergic activities rather than adrenergic activities. So in emergency state, you will have the xerostomia, means you will have the dry mouth, while in case of normal state, there will be secretion of the saliva, there will be secretion of the sweat, there will be secretion of the mucus in the bronchioles and GI tract. Well, in the GIT, in sympathetic nervous system, there will be reduction in the motility, while in parasympathetic, there will be increase in the GI motility to start the digestion after the emergency condition. While in bladder, there will be relaxation of the detrusor muscle to hold more and more urine, and it will contract the sphincter, not allowing the urine to leak out of the urethra. While in parasympathetic nervous system, there will be contraction of the detrusor to push the urine out, and there will be relaxation of the sphincter in order to get relief from the urine. What about male ganglia? Male genitalia. In sympathetic nervous system, there are stimulations of alpha receptors, alpha 2 receptors, and alpha 1 receptor. As a result, there will be ejaculation. We have a drug known as euhimbine that acts on alpha receptor, stimulating or causing the ejaculation of the semen. While in case of PNS or parasympathetic nervous system, there will be erection because erection is caused by the muscles, and on the muscles nicotinic receptors or cholinergic receptors are present. As a result, what will happen, there will be erection because of the muscle stimulation. While for ejaculation, there is need of a particular amount of epinephrine or norepinephrine in the blood and in the neurons to act on the alpha receptors present in the genitalia of the male. While in case of liver, in sympathetic nervous system, we need more and more energy, so there will be gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. While in case of parasympathetic, there is no action of it because beta receptors, yes, beta receptors are present in the liver. What about kidney? In kidney, during emergency state, when sympathetic nervous system is activated, there will be release of renin because of the action on beta receptors, stimulation and inhibitory action on the alpha 1 receptor. And then what will happen, because of the increase in renin, there will be vasoconstriction and increase in the blood pressure. Sweat glands, that I have told you before, all kinds of secretions of body depends upon the cholinergic stimulation. So cholinergic stimulation will be there and sweat will be released in the sympathetic nervous system. So in sympathetic nervous system, there is only one pathway in which choline or acetylcholine acts, that is sweat glands. While in case of fat cells, beta 3 receptors are present in the fat cells, so there will be lipolysis upon the stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. And lacrimal glands, tear secretion in the PNS as it is cholinergic again. Now comes the reflex control. Autonomic is all about reflexes. The pathway followed by the reflexes is known as the reflex arcs. There are a lot of examples, but the major example controlling the blood pressure is the baroreceptor reflex. Actually, baroreceptors are present in the carotid artery and aortic arch. When whenever there is drop in the blood pressure, there is stimulation of the baroreceptors, and as a result, parasympathetic activity reduces and sympathetic activity increases, which leads to increased heart rate, means tachycardia and vasoconstriction, overall leading towards the increased blood pressure. So, CNS control centers are hypothalamus, medulla oblongata, and spinal cord. We have talked about afferents and the efferent. So, afferent has to have to receive from the viscera, means afferent neurons have to conduct impulses from receptors to the CNS, while efferent neuron has to conduct the impulses from the CNS to the effector organ. Now comes the innervation patterns. There is a dual innervation. Dual innervation means, if for example, heart is in the center and it receives both parasympathetic and sympathetic innervation, means our heart rate has to be increased in case of emergency, so there should be sympathetic nervous system pathway, while in order to relieve the heart from the emergency condition after the emergency state, so there should be a system which should reduce the heart rate, reduce the contractility, reduce the blood pressure. For that very moment, for that very purpose, parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So there are some organs which only receive sympathetic stimulation. That includes adrenal medulla, kidney, pilomotor muscles, and sweat glands. If there is no sympathetic activity, means there is no parasympathetic activity on these as well, because there is no supply of parasympathetic neurons to these four organs. Next, we have somatic versus autonomic, a broader division difference. In somatic nervous system, it includes skeletal muscles, while in case of the autonomic nervous system, there are smooth muscles which are present in the bronchioles and the GI tract and glands, while the cardiac muscles are present in the heart. So, somatic, straightforward, it is voluntary, while autonomic nervous system, it usually controls the involuntary involuntary part of the central nervous system. What about neurons? In somatic, myelinated neurons are present, while in case of autonomic, and there is only one neuron that originates from the center and terminates at the organ site. While in case of autonomic nervous system, there are two neurons involved, preganglionic and postganglionic. Depending upon if it is sympathetic nervous system, preganglionic will be short, postganglionic fiber will be long. While in case of parasympathetic nervous system, preganglionic will be long and postganglionic will be short. And in ANS, neurons are non-myelinated. Now, here comes another difference. In case of somatic, there will be fast conduction, as you are seeing the last point in on the slide. While in case of autonomic nervous system, there will be slower conduction and slower message transmission rate or speed. In case of ganglia, somatic don't have any ganglia. Somatic nervous system doesn't have any ganglia, while autonomic nervous system has got the ganglia. What about targets? I have told you about targets, that in somatic, target is skeletal muscle, that is also in the cholinergic control, and M receptors are present in the neuromuscular junction, a junction between the neuron and the muscle. While autonomic nervous system controls smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and glands. Now comes to the cholinergic transmission. Innervated are regulated by acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is our cholinergic transmission can be followed by all preganglionic fibers, but either it is SNS or PNS, it doesn't matter. Acetylcholine will be utilized as a neurotransmitter in the SNS and PNS in all preganglionic fibers. What about parasympathetic postganglionic neurons? In parasympathetic, postganglionic, preganglionic, all kinds of fibers utilize acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter, and there is cholinergic transmission rather than adrenergic transmission. In case of sympathetic postganglionic, there are only sweat glands where acetylcholine acts as a neurotransmitter. Somatic motor neurons. As I have told you, an M receptor present in the neuromuscular junction are, you can say, nicotinic receptors which are present in the motor and plate are in the muscle. At that particular junction, acetylcholine is utilized as a neurotransmitter. Well, there are receptors for the acetylcholine, nicotinic receptors which are present in the ganglia, and N-type receptors and the skeletal muscles, and M receptors, while muscarinic or cholinergic receptors are present in the parasympathetic targets. Adrenergic transmission is actually regulated by the norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is the neurotransmitter, as I have told you before, while epinephrine acts as a hormone as it is released in the blood. So, norepinephrine is present in the sympathetic nervous system post ganglionic. So, in the post ganglionic neuron, norepinephrine will be present. Epinephrine is released by the adrenal medulla upon the stimulation from the SNS that involves acetylcholine. Receptors on which adrenergic transmission has to act on are of two types, and there are further types of these receptors: alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, and beta 3. What are the locations of alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3? We will discuss it later on. What is the fate of neurotransmitter? Well, acetylcholine is converted into acetyl and choline. Choline is taken up by the digestive system, while acetyl can be reutilized through acetyl coenzyme A pathway. Acetylcholine conversion actually happens with the help of an enzyme known as acetylcholinesterase. Norepinephrine is taken up into the nerve terminal. Means if, say for example, there is a transmission from the preganglionic to the postganglionic, and then postganglionic to the to the target organ. In the postganglionic, there will be release of adrenaline, sorry, norepinephrine or noradrenaline. When it is released, just just behind the synaptic cleft, means on the presynaptic membrane, alpha 2 receptors are present. Alpha 2 receptors has the function to stop the further release of the neurotransmitter norepinephrine. While there are some net receptors, norepinephrine transporters as well, they have to reuptake the norepinephrine into the neurons. And in neurons, there are two enzymes are present: monoamine oxidase MAO and catechol O methyl transferase. These two enzymes convert norepinephrine into inactive metabolites. Receptor signaling, neurotransmission are sorry, neurotransmitters actually bind to the receptors present on the surface of the cell membrane. So the receptors are the transmembrane, and then there is stimulation of the internal pathways. There is stimulation of the secondary messenger. When there is stimulation of the secondary messenger, different actions can happen. Cyclic AMP can increase, decrease, GTP conversion into the cyclic GMP, increase, decrease, whatever we will see in the chapter related to the receptor signaling. So receptors are classified by the ligand they bind to. If there is binding of acetylcholine to any receptor, then such receptor is known as cholinergic receptors. Now there are two types of cholinergic receptors: muscarinic receptors and nicotinic receptors. With nicotinic receptors, nicotine can bind or acetylcholine can bind. While in case of muscarinic receptors, muscarine can bind or acetylcholine can bind. While in case of adrenergic, epinephrine or norepinephrine, both kinds of neurotransmitter can bind. That's it. We will see you with another topic. It's Soheb Tahir from ZMeds signing off.